Hi there. I wanted to make a video to give you a little bit more information to think about when you complete your Super Nanny video review. As you know, the review is due and will be presented in class on March the 2nd. We also have an optional session this Thursday, February 24th, 7 p.m. And you are more than welcome to come work with your group at that time, and it'll give you an opportunity to also ask questions of myself, anything that you feel like you need instructor input on. That's a really good time to take advantage of. If you can't make it at that time or prefer to talk to me during office hours or set up another appointment, that's fine too. If you click on the Super Nanny video review here on the blue menu, as I have done, you'll be able to see the 4 Super Nanny videos that our class will be reviewing. It gives you a little bit of information about who is in your group. And then if you scroll down past those video assignments, you'll see the guidelines and the rubric. I'd like to pull up the guidelines and go through them with you now, and then I'll also go through the rubric and let you know about how the plan will be evaluated, or how your review will be evaluated. The first thing you'll notice is that there is that you're going to be doing an analysis, and then you're going to be providing some critical feedback related to that analysis. And then there are also some presentation guidelines, which discusses what you'll be expected to share with the other members of the class. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to describe the problem behaviors from the point of view of the nanny. So in all of these videos, the nanny arrives, there are some, behaviors that we would certainly say are unexpected or challenging. And I want you to just describe, what does the nanny see and why does she feel like those behaviors are particular difficulties? For part 2, you need to describe the problems and unacceptable behaviors from the point of view of each of the parents. And so in most cases, there is both a mother and a father that is present in the family unit. And I want you to talk about, what does the mom see as the challenge and what does the father see as the challenge? Also, then want you to think about, what are the strengths of the family? What strengths does the mom bring? What strengths does the father bring? What strengths do the children bring? If there are other significant individuals that participate in that family, certainly you can also comment on their strengths. Because remember, we always want to, in addition to identifying sources of difficulty, we also want to identify areas of strength, because that's what we build upon in order to produce an effective intervention. For item number 4, what you're going to do is conduct, as best you possibly can, an ABC analysis. Now remember, we talked in class about an antecedent, a behavior, and a consequence, and that's something you've also read about in your text. So an antecedent is what occurs directly before the target behavior that we're focusing on. So what seems to be the catalyst for that behavior occurring? And then what is the consequence of that behavior? I want you to be sure that you do your ABC analysis based on the behaviors that are occurring before the intervention. So sometimes students make the mistake of doing an ABC chart, but they include what happens to the behavior after the intervention. That's also important, but for this purpose, I'm wanting you to look at what happened when the problem behaviors were occurring before the nanny went in to try to intervene. What seemed to be the antecedent, what seemed to be the behavior, and what seemed to be the consequence. Also, be very clear that you separate. A consequence is not the function of a behavior. So sometimes a student will say, the boys were playing at the table. One brother hit the other brother, and this boy doing the hitting received negative negative attention from the mother. Okay. Well, the negative attention from the mother is important to know, but you need to say specifically what that negative attention was. So you're wanting to describe actual events that occurred, not your interpretation of those events, or not the function that you perceive those events to serve. Okay? Hopefully that's clear. So you need an ABC analysis chart. Sometimes the video doesn't show you exactly what the antecedent or exactly what the consequence was for each of the behaviors that they highlight in the video. If that's the case, that's fine. Just put in your chart, not observed. Okay, and I'll know what that means. Then I want you to list what the nanny's recommending for all of those behaviors. And in every case, the nanny certainly recommends more than one intervention. So list all of the nanny's recommendations. In number 6, you need to talk about which specific behavior was she targeting for each of those recommendations. Number 7, how did the nanny communicate the plan to the children? So how did the children find out what the plan was going to be and what they were working on and what the rewards and consequences of specific behaviors were going to be? You also need to talk about how the nanny communicated the plan to the parents, to both the mother and the father. Did she sit down and meet with them together? Were there separate meetings? Be very detailed there. Number 9, you're going to describe the results of the intervention. And always be sure, in most cases, the nanny leaves and the parents work to implement interventions on their own. And in many cases, the nanny has to come back and do a little bit of reteaching. So make sure that you describe the results both as they occur, sort of as the nanny first departs, and then what were the results long term. Now, after looking at all of that information, I want you to tell me what things about behavior management you learned that you think are applicable to the classroom setting and can be useful. And then think about what recommendations would you have for the nanny based on what you've learned thus far in the course. Because remember, Nanny has a TV show, Nanny has had preparation and experience as a nanny, but she hasn't taken this course. And so in all cases, there are things that could also probably be beneficial to the nanny to think about. And indeed, her interventions could probably be improved. And so I want you to talk about that. And then for number 12, if there's anything that you feel like your group feels like should have been communicated that wasn't, please feel free to include it. You should be citing references using APA format. That includes your textbook. That includes the video that you watched, okay? The one thing I strongly recommend you do is you don't say, well, we have 3 people in our group, so somebody's going to do 1 through 4, somebody's going to do, 5 through 8, and somebody's going to do 9 through 12. You are all responsible for all parts of this project, and it really does work best if you all discuss all of the questions and come up with your best thinking. Now, that said, that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to meet face-to-face. You have some tools available to you in Blackboard that will allow you to complete this assignment virtually. You can Skype or FaceTime one another to work on it. If you all have watched the video thoroughly prior to completing your analysis, you shouldn't have any challenges in terms of getting that done, okay? And then when you come into class for your presentation, what you're going to do is you're going to share your overall analysis with your classmates, and I want you to select a significant event or scene from the episode, show the class that video, and then talk about how you interpreted it. Obviously, in the time frame that is available, you are not going to be able to go point by point through each of these 12 items that I've asked for in your analysis. So please be sure that you summarize and that you think about what was the most crucial information that you learned and how did you use that in coming to the conclusions that you did. Let's click on this Super Nanny Video Review Guidelines and Rubric. And let's view the rubric. Okay. So there are 70 points available for your analysis and presentation. 55 of those points are coming from the analysis. 15 points are coming from the presentation. An additional 10 points is going to come from a self-evaluation and evaluation of your peers in terms of how much everyone contributed to the group product. Okay? If you look at all of those guidelines, one of the things that the assessment will tell you is that you are going to receive a maximum of 5 points per question for the first 11 questions. So the 12 tell me anything else you wanted me to know. I'm not going to give you points there. But for the other questions, you receive 5 points per question. Okay? And in order to do well, you have to include all the required information and you have to make sure that there are no spelling or grammar errors. Okay? In your presentation, you need to make sure for that 15 points it's organized, it's complete, it's comprehensible, and make sure that all of the group members of your group have an opportunity to participate. You should be sharing responsibility for the presentation amongst all of the members of your group. Everyone should be displaying effective communication skills, be engaged, and be ready to answer questions that arise. Okay? So again, 55 points for the analysis, 5 points per question, 15 points for the presentation that you will do in class. The other thing that you'll see here, let me go back to the tab again, is you'll see a self-evaluation, and I'll pull that up and talk to you a little bit about that. So if you scroll down, you see the video assignments, you see the guidelines, you see the self-peer evaluation. And you'll fill this out both for your Super Nanny project and for your classroom management project. So if we consider 100% percentage points to be available to share amongst your team members, including yourself, then I want you to decide among that 100% how much you're going to give to yourself and to your other 2 team members. So if it were allocated equally, everyone would get 33.3%, right? But it may be that some individuals actually you feel like put substantially more into the project to increasing responsibility for communication and making sure the project was done. And you're going to allocate those percentages differently. You're not going to allocate them evenly. In part 2, I ask that you explain any particularly high or low allocations and give me some concrete examples. So if you're going to give one of your peers a very low score or a very, very high score, you need to justify or provide some rationale for doing so. This you will just download and email to me. It will be, or download and submit to me, and it will be submitted separately. The rubric you will receive will be for your entire group, and then the self-evaluation should be completed by each person individually. Following my editing of this video, it will also appear in this file so that you can pull it up and reference it as you need to. I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to seeing some of you on Thursday night at our optional session on February 24th, and look forward to seeing all of your projects on March the 2nd. You will each have 10 to no more than 15 minutes to present, and I will say time if you go over that 15 minutes. As always, let me know if you have any additional questions.